Holy cow. I am only looking for helpful advice as I am totally committed to doing whatever I can to salvage my marriage. If you feel the need to tell me divorce is my only answer, please go elsewhere as divorce is not what I'm here for. My husband and I have been married for 2 years, together for about 10, literally living together since the first day we started dating and have known each other for 15 years. We did take a break 7 years ago due to an NPA on my part at the time, and I am not trying to make excuses, more trying to explain what led to this in the first place. I know my actions were inexcusable, selfish, and downright horrible, and I was lucky to be forgiven in the first place. We were dating for 3 years, and for about a year prior to this happening I began to feel neglected. I felt as if his friends and his time with them were more important than I also felt that I was bearing the responsibility for everything, and when I say everything, I mean it. He would at the time give me money to pay bills. More often than not, it was not enough money to cover his share, and I would have to cover the remaining amounts. So, bills and their paying were all handled by me. Housework, all done by me. Yard work, all done by me. Maintain vehicles, home repairs, what I was capable of was done by myself, and if I was not capable, my family or friends would help me out. I began to resent him for the lack of help, support, whatever you want to label it, and I stupidly went in search of someone who told me all the things I wanted to hear and who seemed to actually enjoy my pre-scenes. What began as an EA led to a PA. Please know that I was never in love with the OM but relished the attention he gave me. My husband, boyfriend at the time, eventually discovered the affair and moved out of our home for 3 months to clear his head in an attempt to resolve not only our issues with our relationship but to give each other the space to resolve our own personal issues on each side that led to the affair. After he left, I resigned myself to become the best possible girlfriend I could ever be. I did everything I could to make sure he would return home and that when he did our relationship would be better than ever. I once again took on the role of all-round caretaker, for lack of a better phrase, that I had resented. I didn't care. At that time I wanted my boyfriend back no matter what and hoped that after the horrible experience I brought on us that we would both learn and grow, change from it. I thought we would, so I kept on waiting. The years went by and we seemed to be closer than ever, though looking back I guess that may not have been the case. We decided we would get married. Sadly, the day was slightly marred by my RX-addicted father running out of his fix and having to be taken to a rehab facility. Do you ever wonder if some things are a sign of more trouble to come? I thought we were happy as husband and wife. I am an introvert while he is an extrovert, and we seemed to balance that out nicely, once again, so I thought. While I did not feel he was helping me with household-related things as much I thought he should. Slowly it seemed as if we started to drift apart, and naively I thought this was normal, just a bump in the road of marriage, but I guess not. Earlier this year he started to drift more and more. He rarely called or texted me, started going out to the bar with his friends and not inviting me. When not going out with his friends he would constantly have them over to our house till very late in the evening, early morning hours, leaving us with almost no time together for ourselves. I voiced my concerns in lighthearted ways, afraid of pushing him away further. In June I had an accident which dislocated my elbow, tore all the ligaments at the elbow and broke a small piece of the bone off. At first the doc didn't think the injury too severe, and it wasn't until 3 weeks after the injury occurred that the doc took back his original diagnosis and said I may have to have surgery to repair the injury, and either way, with or without the surgery, I would lose a vast majority of the movement in that arm. At this time, I was unable to do even the simplest of things. I couldn't even fasten my own bra, let alone cook, clean, do yard work or work on vehicles, and let my husband know that I really needed him to step up and help me, which he said he had no problem doing. Well, nothing got done. Barely any help was given. It got to where he was agitated by my waking him to fasten said bra so I could go to work. In one way I guess this was a good thing because it pushed me to get my arm back to normal without surgery, for we have no insurance. After 7 weeks I was back doing everything I was doing before, either using only one arm or dealing with the elbow occasionally dislocating. Here is where my resentment began to bloom. It was also at this time when my husband came to me and informed me he thought he was having a midlife crisis. I was very skeptical to this as he is only 31 and I 30. He told me he wasn't happy with how his life was turning out. He didn't want to live in the area, was unhappy with what little money he made and the fact that he felt like he constantly mooched off of me. I asked him if he wanted a divorce and he said no. I asked him if we were going to be okay. He said he hoped so. I asked what I could do to help make the situation better. He said he didn't know if there was anything I could do. He said he felt like we hadn't been connected emotionally for a long time, that I didn't give him the affection he needed, emotional or physically. Not knowing what to do, I just decided to march on. We decided we would have one dedicated date night a week, just the two of us, and keep working on it from there. Our first date night, a female friend, who has her own boyfriend, of his called at 9 p.m. and asked that he go with her to pick someone up from the airport with her 2 hours away. I foolishly told him to go, half using stupid women's reverse logic and half knowing that if he didn't go, he'd be texting with her on the phone the remainder of the evening. He left to go with her even after I told him how much I didn't want him to go. After this, and despite my feelings of resentment for various things, I once again poured myself into doing everything I could for our relationship. Instead of giving what I thought was 100%, I tried even harder. It got to where the last 2 months we were together were the best of our relationship. Then I looked at the cell phone bills. Both of our phones were in my name. I didn't opt for detailed billing, so I didn't pay attention to who we were talking to. I noticed that we were starting to go over our minutes and were starting to use up all of our rollover minutes. I expressed to him that I thought we needed to upgrade our plan and let him know that I was going to do so. A week later, I logged onto our account and noticed 90% of all minutes were being used by him calling the same number. I thought perhaps the number was his sister, as she likes to call him constantly. When I asked who it was, it turned out to be the same girl he left me on our first date night to hang out with. I was sick. I went off. I saw how he spent a majority of his time constant talking to this girl when he would barely call me. And if he wasn't talking with her, then they were texting. He assures me this girl is just a good friend and that he would has never slept with her. This I truly believe, as that is not who he is. He tells me that this girl is a destroyer of men and he would never want to date her. He also tells me that they have texted this much on and off for the last 2 years since we were married. I told him I thought this was the deserved karma for what I had done to him. This argument lasted 3 days, culminating with him deciding that it would be best if we separated. He says that it's not just her that is out problem. She is merely a symptom. He tells me that I have been the best wife that anyone could hope for, that I never gave anything less than 110%, his own works. He tells me that it's mostly him, that he doesn't understand why he treats me the way he does and that I don't deserve to be treated this way. I didn't know what else to do. He wanted space to figure himself and our marriage out. I was scared that if we remained together that me being there would somehow make it worse. I told him that a separation was not what I wanted, that I took a vow of for better or worse, and that when times were worse a married couple was supposed to work even harder together to fix it. I gave him what he wanted, but not in the way he expected. I think he expected me to kick him out, but I didn't. I left. I packed all my things, 99% of the furnishings and household items I brought into our relationship. He brought the 2 TVs. I took everything, minus the couch, a desk, the cabinet, a vacuum, a set of plates, cutlery and pots and pans, some because I could easily replace them if necessary, and some because they just wouldn't fit into the storage locker I rented. I moved in with family 3 days before our second marriage anniversary, and have been with them ever since. He said we would meet on Tuesday evenings and try to work things out, and hopefully from there we could start dating again. He said he doesn't want a divorce, that he hopes we come out of this husband and wife 2.0 version. When I left, he said he would call me every day. That lasted 4 days. A few times he called and I was admittingly angry and purposefully, childishly ignored his phone calls. We met on the first Tuesday, our anniversary, to go out to dinner, during which I found out the following day that he and the girl were texting back and forth during. We met last Tuesday to go over bills and the money he owes me. I got my name off of our rental lease and all our utilities put solely in his name. We never had a joint bank account, so that wasn't an issue. The only thing that remains in both our names is the car insurance. We discussed a payment plan for him to repay me and just kind of hung out for a while afterwards. When I was leaving, I told him that I missed him and he said he missed me, too. He also told me that I could call him anytime to talk. That was almost a week ago and he's answered one of the 4 times I've called. So, that's where we are. I see him again tomorrow and know not what to expect. I hate not knowing what he's doing or thinking. I'm scared that he's going to forget about me. I'm scared that he might decide that his life is better off without me. I'm not one who easily lets people in, and I'm scared I'm going to lose the person I love the most. I already feel like my heart is gone. I've taken my wedding ring off as I don't feel right wearing it when he seems more invested in a relationship, be it extremely close friends, with a woman other than myself. I'm scared I'm acting like a hypocrite being so upset with their relationship after what I did to him 7 years ago. I'm just so very scared. The only thing is he has repeatedly told me that he doesn't want a divorce. He says really wants us to work things out, but he thinks to do so we have to start from scratch. I do hope this is really the case and that he's not stinging me along. B. I realize that while cutting him so much slack in his responsibilities did nothing to make him want to be the man he should be. At the same time, I was brought up that if you love someone you do what you can to help them out. Hindsight is always 20/20, and with that I can see that my actions did nothing to help either one of us. You know, at one time we did have a really great relationship, and I think that's what I'm clinging to, hoping that one day maybe we can get that back. I am now starting to tell myself I love him, I want him, but I don't need him, and I will leave it at that until he can prove to me in actions that I am more than just a doormat divided by second mother to him. Again, thank you for your input, but what's more, thank you so much for your words of support. I really have beat myself up over my pot, and you're right. I own that crap and came out what I think to be a better person because of it. I consider myself living proof that people can change. He is a firm believer that people do not, which may be some of his problem, and I am very proud that I can represent that. I am compromising. I truly am, and I am codependent upon my husband. I wasn't always like this, but after 10 years it is what I came to be. And in being that I did compromise what I felt our marriage deserved in exchange of not rocking the boat and possibly pushing him away, so to speak. I agree that he does need accountability, and I will admit I am both torn and confused, for lack of a better word, on this. I am torn because, as you pointed out, right now I am weak. I'm afraid and have always been afraid that if I were to hold him accountable it would push him away. That and the fact that he likes to tell me verbatim, "You knew who I was when we got together." I did know, but I foolishly hoped that our love and relationship would make him want to step up and grow up. I'm confused because I don't know what else I can do to hold him accountable. When I left, which I will admit I did leave for him to give him the space he says he so needed, I took 99% of everything in that house. It was all mine anyways, and I didn't trust him or his friends to take care of it. I got my name off the lease, off all joint bills minus the car insurance, and dropped his line off of my phone plan. Right now, the only other things I can think of doing are going complete NC, except for our Tuesday nights when we're supposed to get together and work on our relationship. And other than that, I guess I could quit taking our dog to see him on Tuesdays. That might sound trivial, but we have no human children together and thus considered our dog. The dog I take care of, buy everything for, pay for everything for, always have since we got her 6 years ago. I admit that this entire experience has been painful, but I'm going to make it. God has been with me thus far and He'll go with me in the future. You and I had some wonderful times together. You were my first real love, and I'll never forget the memories that we shared. I will pray for you and trust that God will guide you in the years ahead. As I said, my mind and heart was a bit concerned at first because my initial reaction was that in giving my husband that letter, I would only push him away farther, and also, as I said, my rational mind won out. What exactly did I have to lose in giving my husband that letter? Nothing. I realized that in giving him that letter, not only was I releasing him and giving him the space he requested, but in giving him that letter I would also be empowering myself. I would be saying, "This is it. I'm giving you what you want with no further qualms, and in doing that I'm letting you know that I will no longer be your doormat. I do love you and want to be with you, but know that I will be perfectly fine without you." I do feel that giving him that letter was just another step in me taking my power back, another step towards becoming the woman I once was and am sure I can be again, with or without my husband, and that is a wonderful feeling. So, as quick as this novelist can make it, recap of our meeting last night. I had texted him earlier yesterday to make sure we were still on, to which he replied yes and asked that I call him when I got home from work to figure what time to get together. When I got home from work, I talked with my family about my day, had myself a small drink, as I am sometimes wont to do, to unwind, had dinner with my family and filled them in on the awesome advice I had been getting here, which they were really excited to hear and happy that other people were telling me what they, too, believed. After dinner, about 6:30, I get home from work a little before 5:30. I then texted husband and asked if 7 would work. He said yes and asked if he should come over or if I would go to his, previously our, house. I told him I'd come over as my mother's very large and sweet dog has since taken it upon herself to want to attack my husband. Please know this dog has never ever acted like this towards anyone ever before, and I know she's only doing so because dogs pick up on humans' feelings and she feels she is protecting me from my husband. We do not reinforce this behavior and are attempting to correct it. Anyways, I showed up about 5 after 7 and he wasn't home yet. His roommate let me in. My husband did insist I keep my keys to the house, but I refused to use them as I do not recognize that place as my home anymore, and I texted husband 7, to which he called and said he was half a mile away heading to the house. I told him I was in his room waiting. They don't really have any furniture, and his room only has a couch, no bed, so there I sat. I didn't even snoop through anything as I would have previously done, but I realized, you know what? I don't care. It's none of my business. He got there and commented on my new clothing. I did go on a major shopping spree this weekend and pretty much got myself the new wardrobe I'd been wanting forever but couldn't afford because my extra money had been spent bailing him out. But since those days are done, I decided I'd reward myself. He asked if I'd like to accompany him and his roommate to dinner since he was hungry and broke and his roommate was fronting him money to eat. Looks like somebody else is picking up the slack now. I told him yes and off we went. We pretty much made small talk. He was texting to someone a few times on the way in and out of the restaurant, but I paid no attention nor did I wait for him to finish. I just continued walking without him acting as if he wasn't worth my waiting. After their dinner we returned to his house and my husband and I went to his room to sit on the lone couch and proceeded with small talk. He asked about our dog who I didn't bring with me. I could tell he was upset about me not bringing her. He asked about what I'd been up to. I told him about work, my family, friends that were coming in from out of town, and my shopping. Shopping because he kept commenting on how much he liked everything I was wearing. I always thought looking good was a good revenge. Petty maybe, but I don't care because I look and feel good. Another petty thing maybe, but I did make a point of showing him the new ring I purchased to replace the spot my wedding ring had previously occupied. Right now with how things are going and his holy, I refuse to wear that ring as I feel it is not me and our marriage that he is dedicated to, so why should I wear something that represents it? I don't think I should, and honestly wearing it makes me feel like a joke. He really liked the ring, but I'm pretty sure I saw some disappointed in his eyes realizing that my wedding ring was no longer there. He told me some of friends had told him to tell me hello. I asked about said friends. He told me one of his friends is planning on coming in from out of town for a big Halloween thing, mixer, horror movie showing and zombie walk, at the end of the month. He said he wasn't sure if he wanted to go, but when I said that it sounded like something fun, he asked if I wanted to go with him. I told him I'd think about it. We continued on with small talk. I'll admit I did slightly make a point of checking the time on my phone periodically, and just before 8:30 I told him I was leaving. He seemed surprised that I was leaving so early and stood up, kind of blocking my way out of the room, hovering around me. I made my way around him and walked out of the house to my car, and he followed me the whole way. Once I got to my car, he asked if he could hug me, and I told him yes. He embraced me in a long and tight hug. I commented that he smelled good. I did always love his aftershave, and he told me he made sure to shave today. I let go of the hug before he did. I told him I'd get in contact with him next Tuesday to arrange a time to meet up, to which he replied he would contact me this Friday to get me money he owes me. He's on a monthly payment plan with me to pay back all his debt to me, and promised he would not forget to do so. After that I just said bye, got in my car and left. I should point out that I gave him the letter when he first got there. He asked then if he could read it. I told him later. When we got back from dinner, he asked again if he could read it. I told him he'd have to deal with the anticipation and read it later. So that was the night. I knew my explanation wouldn't be quick. Sorry, just trying to get everything in there. I'll add that yesterday I did print out a lot of info on EAs, what they are, how to recognize them, and how to recover from them. I plan on giving this info to him at next week's meeting and request that he read very careful over the info. He is in complete denial that what he has with the O is an EA between next week's meeting and the following week's meeting. My plan for Tuesday after next is to lay it on the table. Tell him that besides our other problems, the EA has to end, and if he cannot end it, then I am done and want a divorce. I don't think that's unfair. I don't think I should be expected to live in the shadow of another woman, and I believe that if he truly does love me, then telling him he needs to end the EA or our marriage is over is in no way asking too much. Found out Thursday afternoon that H and O took a day trip out of town the past Sunday. After that I did some digging and found out that O and her boyfriend broke up last Tuesday. Wonder why. The funny thing is that OW's boyfriend is her and H's manager at work. How that must be awkward. So, upon these revelations, I wrote H another letter saying I would no longer tolerate his behavior, that as of the letter he would no longer see or hear from me except for convos about our joint financial matters. Told him he wouldn't see our dog again either. Hey, we have no kids. Our dog is our kid. Also stated that if his and O's relationship remained as is, then he would leave me no choice other than to file for divorce next year. In our state you have to wait a year and a day. I also included a printout of Midlife Crisis for Dummies and an info printout detailing EAs and PAs and the effects they have on a marriage. I was all proud of myself and gave him the letter that evening, and what do I go do? I get slightly intoxicated that night and decide it's an awesome idea to text him at 2:30 in the morning. I texted him sweet dreams, tell OW good night for me, and to give her hugs and kisses for me. He replied with no, but I'm not going to answer crappy texts. You can think whatever you want. Good night. Did I stop there? No, I replied with whatever. Just remember it's still adultery till the date we can file for divorce. Jesus, what was I thinking? I was totally going for the 180 and instead ended up with my foot in my mouth. So as of yesterday, the proud feeling is gone. I of course haven't heard from him at all, and I feel like emotional poo. I miss him so much and want to contact him, but after my drunken texting I've decided to start over with the 180 and go total NC, except concerning finances, and from now on if I decide to once again get hammered, I'm going to make sure I have a friend hide my phone. I'm doing all I can to stay strong, but sometimes it's just really hard. I think a lot of the problems my H has, he misdirects the blame onto me. He's not as successful as he hoped to be by this time in his life, while I am. I never rubbed my success in his face and have always been there to support him and do anything I could to help him, but I still think he resents me for it. I'm trying not to give up hope. I so do not want to give up hope, for I love this man so dearly, but at the same time the things he is currently doing just break my heart again and again. So, I am trying to be strong and am trying to figure out how best to move on. You know, I always told everyone that I considered my H to be the best human being in the world. The most selfless, caring, generous person that I knew, and that because of this it made me want to be a better person in life, too. Then all this happened. I feel like a fool because, as you have probably experienced, it's as if my reality and perception of life have been shattered. I will continue to fight the good fight though. If not for our marriage, then for myself. I will admit that there is a teeny tiny part of me that is hoping for our, but my mind is telling my heart, look at what this dude keeps on doing to you. This isn't love, and if it is, then it's not the love you want or deserve. Then said mind hits said heart a bunch of times, maybe 10, and with a brick. My heart whispers in one ear all the good memories and the few sweet things H did before I went to NC not counting my drunken text slip up. And my heart tells me that maybe it wasn't that bad and I'm just overreacting and throwing everything away, but just as quickly and right thankfully. 2. My mind comes back with a what the hell, you nasty woman, please. Quit kidding yourself, you know what it's come to and never should you let anyone treat you that way. Suck it up. So, I'd have to say I'm bigger fan of my mind right now than I am my heart. And do not fret. This girl will not fold so easily. I will not fold at all. While I admit I am holding out a hope for R, however small it may be, but for that R to even possibly come about, my H will have to prove consistently and constantly for a very great period of time that he is a changed man. Without that change there is nothing to work on and no hope for a future for us together. I continue to work on rebuilding myself and am learning to accept that I have no control over what he does with himself. I have no control over his actions, intentions, thoughts or feelings, nor are they any of my concern now. My concern now is solely on myself and the actions I need to take to crawl myself out of this hole and emerge as the best person I know I can be for myself. So little update as to last night. As you know, after yesterday morning's key incident, I texted H that I needed the money and a couple of my other things from him and would like them that evening. All day I never heard a peep from H. I did however see him traveling south with one of his friends on my way home from work. The look on his face seemed to be one of shock as he took in the scene of me driving north, did not look directly at him. This was through my peripheral vision, but still I swear I saw a mixed look of shock and horror, but then again, that could just be me. I then texted H once I got home saying that I'd appreciate it if he could drop the requested off before 10 p.m. Well, of course, and totally not to my shock mind you, he never contacted me or dropped the stuff off. See, I know my H knows me better than anyone and therefore I know he thinks he knows how to push my button. Oh silly H, those days are so over. I am working on becoming a brand new and even better chick. So I'm sure his lack of response and blatant disregard of my request was an attempt to piss me off, and not to mention I assume that he might still be a little butthurt over my drunken text, and maybe the key display, too. And I was so uber proud of myself, I did not fall back, I did not regress. The old me would have blown up his phone with angry vicious texts demanding he get his sorry butt in gear, and admittedly there of course would have been many profanities accompanying those texts, but last night, nope. I simply said to myself, directed at H, well played sir, well played. But you have another thing coming. Or not coming should I say. I refuse to give in to that past behavior, and on that note, I should also point out that instead of simply leaving my key on his car as I did yesterday morning, my old self totally would have pulled a Carrie Underwood on his car and probably OW's as well. Hey, I told you I used to be a wild child, and I meant that in every sense of the phrase, but also realized that phase was over 10 years ago. And the whole situation is so not worth getting myself worked up over. Instead, what I experienced was a new feeling. A calm feeling. Now make no mistake, that clam was laced with anger, but only slightly, as if that anger was like an undercurrent. It was almost like the feeling you get, you know, the proverbial calm before the storm, but no storm ever came, for I did not let it. I realize, slowly, I am beginning to experience a sense of peace. Oh, I do not fool myself though. I know my emotions will continue to run the gamut for some time to come, but how I react to those emotions will contribute towards defining who I am and who I am becoming. I'm not that girl anymore. I am changing. The dog's days are over. Well, on leaving to work this morning I once again saw H's car parked outside OW's house. Jesus, it sucks when that woman lives in the front of my neighborhood. Kind of pissed, but not surprised. You know, you get that aggravating twinge in the pit of your stomach. And no, I'm not talking about gas. Well, instead of getting angrier, I've decided to do a few things today. At lunch I'm going to try and call Zoe's ex that she broke up with last week and see what insight he has on the situation. That is all dependent on if I can get a hold of him. After that I'm totally changing the iTunes password for my account. See, we shared an account that is in my name. Last week I changed it only so H wouldn't make any more purchases. He hadn't done so since I left. Little did I know, in changing the password it not only didn't allow him to make purchases, but it locked him out of every app and update on his iPhone, making the phone pretty much useless other than for making calls. Well, H started texting, whining about not being able to use it and blah, blah, blah. Well, I was dumb and felt bad, so I gave him new password. I don't consider changing the password again to be spiteful. H needs to have consequences, and I consider this one of them. A girlfriend of mine recommended good password. My comment: do you think OP can justify her anger after her affair years ago? Or she deserve it? Comment down below and I will finish up the part 2 ending for tomorrow morning.